everyone. We are here at the Hungaroring in Budapest, and we certainly are ready for the third race weekend of the DTM season. And we are psyched to be here. The sun is shining, and it's been a very good qualifying for you, Paul di Resta, because you actually, you're in pole now, and you won here last year. So are you happy to repeat history here today, perhaps?
We've given ourselves a good chance of doing it. Pole position is always critical here, especially at this track, but in DTM anything can happen. More importantly, it's about starts, pit stops, all of these things together. But I had a very strong car yesterday, and I must say we got the most out of it in qualifying. So ultimately, it's up to us to try and put the other 50% of this race weekend to right. But you know, at the same time, we have strong competitors round about us. But we'll do what we can to fight it all the way.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul di Resta. And now here's your commentator.
Thanks very much indeed. Welcome along, everybody, to a very sunny and very hot Hungaroring, ready for the third event of what is turning into a fascinating 2018 season of DTM. Chris Hartley here, overlooking what's a packed grandstand down beneath the commentary box. A very noisy, busy and lively crowd. They've all been having cannons of spray fired up into them from the organisers down on the track below. Lots of cheering and going on at the paddock, absolutely packed as well during the lunch break after the qualifying session this morning. So it's a really enthusiastic, busy crowd here, as ever, at the Hungaroring. We are located just about a 30-minute drive outside of the city centre. In this glorious backdrop. The Hungaroring, of course, a Formula One Grand Prix venue, and one of the favourites for the teams and us commentators to come along to. It's a great city, Budapest, and just outside the city here in the rolling hills, it's a lovely backdrop. The weather set fair then. Earlier on today, that wasn't the case. We had free practice this morning affected by wet conditions. And then the first race of the day, the Formula 3 race, started on a damp track, but because the air temperature and the track temperature is very hot indeed, pushing up towards 30 degrees air temperature now, it did not take long for the track to dry up, and the chance of any further rain or storms, as we've had one or two spots of over the last day and a half or so, coming back this afternoon, are pretty minimal. There is Mike Rockenfeller then, who is looking to progress up through the grid in this one. After this morning's qualifying session, it's Paul di Resta, as you've seen, that was on pole position for Mercedes. Nico Muller with the season's best second on the grid. And then Lucas Auer starting in third place on the grid. Lucas had a big chance to get pole position this morning. If you weren't watching qualifying, just to let you know that he had a real charge on his final lap. He was in the first sector, 0.3 of a second up, and then he pushed just a bit too hard through turn 9, ran way out wide, and lost all that time, and ended up scrubbing off the lap really. So Lucas will be pretty pleased with third, but slightly bittersweet that he's not a bit higher up the grid, because he could have been on pole position. So it's Mercedes and Audi on the front row of the grid. Lucas Auer for Mercedes starting third, and the reigning champion in a rebuilt car, René Rast for Audi Sport Team Rosberg, after that big barrel roll, that big crash last time out at the Lausitzring, is starting in fourth place. And we can hear now from the Audi boss.
And I'm here with Dieter Gass. Now, 2 weeks ago at the Lausitzring, we had the terrible accident with René Rast, but luckily everything is okay with him. And obviously you also managed to fix the car really well with the P4, so you had good time in these 2 weeks to fix it.
Yes, sure. I mean, weekend Lausitzring was a very big weekend for us. Not only René's accident, which looked very bad, but as well the accident on the grid between Nico and Jamie, which effectively was worse in terms of impact on the car. But yeah, I mean, the cars are built in a way that it is possible to fix it over the 2 weeks and do everything as it should, and make sure that everything is in the right place and it's working fine. So that's what we did, and today we had quite a good qualifying as well. Not maybe as good as it could have been. I was still hoping for a little bit more when I looked at the first run. We weren't able to improve in the second run. But still, for us, it's the best qualifying session so far, and hoping for a good race now.
I was just going to say, P2 with Nico Muller is fantastic. So best of luck for the race. Thank you very much, Dieter Gass, and now back to you.
Thanks very much. So just a bit of background there from Dieter into the rebuilding of René Rast's car. If you saw that accident a few weeks ago, you'd have been perhaps surprised to find that it's the same car, the same chassis that he's driving here this weekend. Although there's lots of damage to the car, the roof of the car in particular, the core strength of these DTM cars is absolutely incredible. As Paul di Resta tries to keep cool here, tipping a little bit of water down the back, over the shoulders, and lots of drivers trying to keep off the grid as long as possible as well, and try and find a bit of shade at the side of the circuit. You can imagine just how hot it's going to be inside these vehicles once they get going. There is the returning former champion Pascal Wehrlein, who is one of 7 champions that we've got on the grid. And Pascal, for a time, was on provisional pole position in qualifying this morning, but it didn't last long. He got onto provisional pole a couple of minutes before they all went in to change tyres in the midway point of the session. And about a minute later, he was 12th. That's how close it was in qualifying this morning. Paul di Resta taking the advantage and pole position by 1/10 of a second, which I suppose in DTM terms was quite some margin. But the gaps there back were pretty tight indeed, just 80 thousandths behind Nico Muller, 34 thousandths of a second behind him, Lucas Auer. So the Mercedes and the Audis dominating up near the sharp end of the grid, but 1 or 2 BMWs with a chance of some points here. Augusto Farfus is starting in 8th place, and we've also got Bruno Spengler, who's going to be starting in the top 10, the French-Canadian, another of our former champions. So they're the drivers getting ready to get in. You saw Mike Rockenfeller earlier on. He's going to have to start from plumb last on the grid in the Audi Sport Team Phoenix car. Right, we mentioned the Bruno Spengler car, which is going to be starting in 10th place. Let's hear from the man himself.
And now with me here is Bruno Spengler. Bruno starting in P10 today. Obviously, it's going to be a tough race. You're going to push really hard. But did you know that in Facebook, they actually decided you're the most favorite DTM driver? So my question now being, I know you've got a huge fan support here. How important is it to you?
It's definitely really important. I mean, first of all, it's great from all of you fans. Thank you very much for all your support. I love it. It gives me a lot of power and a lot of energy to go racing. And as a driver, you know, when you come to a racetrack and you see the atmosphere, the people there, the fans, whether the weather is good, whether the weather is bad, you know, they're always here cheering for us and coming to see the DTM races. And it just gives you, as a driver, a lot more adrenaline and more power to extract the last couple of tenths out of the car. And now, like you said, you know, it doesn't look great. We start P10, but everything is possible. I'll give my very best to score as much points as possible. It's going to be a tough one, super hot out there. That's why I was hiding a little bit in the shadow. You struggled to find me. But anyway, I'll give my best and see what the outcome is.
I'm sure you will. Thank you so much, Bruno Spengler, and hopefully the fans are going to give you wings for this race. Okay, now to the commentator.
Let's see if he can fly in this one. We'll see. This is how the grid then is going to shape up for the first of the weekend's races. Paul di Resta with his 8th career pole position. Nico Muller starts alongside in the Audi, and then on row 2, just missing out on pole, Lucas Auer. René Rast with a strong performance. The reigning champion starts 4th. Row 3, we got Edo Mortara and his Mercedes brandmate Daniel Angadeo with a good qualifying session this morning. Jamie Green needs to get his season up and running. He starts 7th. Augusto Farfus is the top BMW alongside in 8th. Then it's the driver 2nd in the championship, Gary Paffett, and the man you've just heard from, Bruno Spengler, to round out the top 10. Loic Duval, former Le Mans winner and former champion in DTM, Pascal Wehrlein, lined up together on the 6th row of the grid. Another former champion, the 2-time winner of DTM, Marco Wittmann, starting up next with a bit of work to do from the 7th row. Joel Eriksson, the newcomer, and Timo Glock, the current championship leader. Just behind, Philip Eng, former Porsche Super Cup champion, and Mike Rockenfeller make up the final row of the grid. So 3 brands, 18 drivers, and a 55-minute plus 1 lap race to come. Timo Glock, the championship leader by a single point, at 72 points for him. Gary Paffett with the 1 point deficit in 2nd place, 71. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Pascal Wehrlein, who is 3rd in the standings on 39 points. Edo Mortara on 37. And Lucas Auer and Paul di Resta both picking up some points from qualifying, where the top 3 are awarded points, running in 5th and 6th positions in the championships. There's Jamie Green, who had that start line accident at the Lausitz Ring last time out, and having come so close several times to winning the championship, particularly last year. Although he was 3rd, he was only 6 points away from the championship title and could have easily won it. Well, he needs the season to get up and running here at the Hungaroring, which has had mixed fortunes for him in the past. Mercedes lead the team standings on 110 points from BMW, the AMG team, and the team RMR squads, the top 2 for their respective brands. And then it is in the manufacturer standings, Mercedes-Benz on 212 points, with BMW in 2nd on 164. So that's all shaping up as we get ready to go racing. So So there is the grid here at the Hungaroring as we get set for the third event of the season, round 5 and round 6 here this weekend. So as we say, just a short distance to Budapest itself, a historic and very vibrant city. Well worth a visit if you haven't been here before. Audi have the most victories in the few races that we've had at this circuit, with 3 to date. Here's some images of what is a glorious city set on the river with lots of historic architecture and a vibrant nightlife. A great friendly city. And a reminder of the start grid as we get set to go racing. So Chris Hartley here in the commentary box, and delighted to say, joining me alongside, it's good afternoon to Dave Richardson.
Hello, Chris. We are in for a treat here. In the sunshine, in about 27, 28 degrees. Budapest and the Hungaroring, for me, always delivers some fantastic DTM racing. And as you well know, the races we have had this year have been magnificent. This 30% reduction in aero has made such a difference, Chris. And the thing is, as you well know, having done qualifying, you can look at free practice, you can look at quali, you can look at the races. It doesn't give you a form guide for the next one, does it? It really, really doesn't. And this man, of course, so much talked about following the Lausitzring crash, which was horrific. Same chassis being used. I mean, the cars, the safety that is integral to those cars is fantastic. And to see René walk away from that, and he's back on the grid, and that is the car of the young Austrian, Lucas Auer, of course, the Mercedes-Benz driver, and Lucas Auer then going from P3 on the grid. Will fancy his chances from there, I would suggest. Yeah, it's one of the 13 different race winners that we've got on what's a hugely competitive grid, and in the top 5 in the championship, because he had a great start to last year, didn't he? Won 2 of the first 3 races, and it just fell away from him the second half of the season. And again, that's the story of DTM, isn't it? You know, it very much seesaws, doesn't it? Lucas Auer was in the championship, then he was out, and then we went back to Nürburgring, he's back in the game again, you know, and it's nip and tuck all the way through the season, which of course is exactly what we want to see. And Paul di Resta, look, the vintage Paul di Resta puts it on pole. Absolutely, yeah. One of the most experienced drivers out there now, isn't he? Especially with the recent departure of Matthias Ekstrom after, 17 years in the championship. The former champion of 2010, of course, having gone off to race for a few seasons in Formula One. With Force India coming back and looking strong here this weekend. He's given himself a chance, he says, of race victory, but he knows how tough it's going to be. And as you say, with the reduction of aero this year, the effect of that is twofold, isn't it? One, it's a lot more difficult to drive these cars with that V8 engine behind them, 500 plus horsepower. They're really wrestling with the wheels. We get some fantastic onboard shots, don't we? Oh. But also the tyres now are going to start to suffer a bit more because the cars are moving around. So tyre degradation is a big factor this year. Absolutely, you've nailed it. It's spot on. The cars do move around more as the drivers, of course, are always searching for this mechanical grip now, aren't they? Because the aero has been taken away. I spent a long time, sadly, due to flight delays, talking to Gary Paffett after the Lausitzring weekend, and we were having a really good conversation. And Gary's an old school racer, isn't he? Yeah. And he is absolutely loving it as we look at Uli Fritz from Mercedes-Benz. Ollie Katzenstein just behind him there. Do the shave, Ollie, if I may say so. There. Mercedes-Benz traditionally here at the Hungaroring hasn't been a good hunting ground, Chris. No, not traditionally. No, you're right. I mean, they've had a great start to what looks like it's going to be their final season, at least for the time being, in this chapter in DTM as they concentrate on Formula E next year. We've got a BMW driver leading the standings, Timo Glock, but the next 5 drivers are all Mercedes drivers. So, yeah, they'll go into it with a certain amount of trepidation. They'll be very pleased they've got Paul di Resta at the head of the field, but they are certainly not dominant in terms of qualifying this morning. And perhaps a better day than we might have hoped for Audi, who were strong, certainly in the dry free practice session yesterday. They dominated the top of the times. Jamie Green going well yesterday. But they haven't had such a good start to the season, have they? I mean, Rockenfeller, 10th in the championship, is their best placed driver at the moment, so they need a good race. And they always said that as a brand, they were the ones that were always going to suffer this reduction in aero the most, because they were so very strong in aero sense. Yeah. So yes, they have struggled. They're continuing to work and work and work, but again, you know, it confounds all our expectations on occasions because you know, they're continually working on the cars. They're developing the cars to try and compensate for this deficit as the cars roar away then on their installation lap. and I think they're beginning to get there as we see the grid go down. You know, we have Nico Muller, we've got René Rast, we've got Jamie Green, you know, and the best of the BMW drivers is Augusto Farfus.
That's right, yeah, just inside the top 10, 8th. Only 2 BMWs in the top 10, you're right, and Timo Glock. We saw some shots of him this morning, Dave, walking away from qualifying, almost sort of literally scratching his head and with a frown on his brow. I can't quite understand this. What are we missing? Where are we going wrong? But they'll look at it and they'll try and improve. And there are opportunities. It's not the easiest track in the world to overtake on, but it is possible.
I was going to say, there are opportunities, aren't they? I mean, we've seen some fantastic battles through turns 1, 2 and 3, haven't we, on that sweep downhill.
That's a great part of the circuit. It's down to turn 2. I mean, you can sort of see it on the TV pictures, but when you walk down it, it's a pretty steep drop down there. And of course, that means all the weight of the car goes over the front wheels. The back of the car is very light, so they're moving around even more down through there, aren't they?
You'll note that Chris said walk. I've run down there. Yeah, I didn't run back.
Brake failure.
Okay, well, the scene is set. As you said, a very, very good number of people here at the Hungaroring to enjoy this racing. As we look at, you were just talking about Timo Glock. We go on board with him. And there is Dieter Gas and the rest of... You can see just to the left of Dieter Gas there is Thomas from Hankook. And there, of course, Alex Zanardi, the information that came out during the course of the week. We knew he was going to be here this weekend, but even better than that, when we go to Misano, he's going to be in a car.
He's going to be in the car, yeah. A long-held dream of his, the double amputee course, having concentrated on Paralympic cycling over the last few years, and 3-time gold medal winner in that. Whatever Alex does, he's a hero, isn't he?
Yes.
He's an absolute star.
And a lovely man to boot.
Yeah, totally, yeah. He's a bit of a hero of mine, actually, so it's great that he's going to get back in the car. But as he said, you know, Matthias Ekstrom didn't do that well as the guest driver with all of his experience because he hadn't done any pre-season testing. Don't expect too much from him at Misano. That said, I'm a racer and I'm going to give it full beans.
Yeah, look at him. He's focusing and concentrating, and you can bet your bottom dollar he's taken on everything that he possibly can to make himself as competitive when it comes to those night races at Misano. Boy, are we looking forward to those. So the cars then revving up and spinning the back wheels to try and get some temperature into those tyres. Of course, the likes of Paul de Resta and Nico Muller and Lucas Auer are the ones that have to wait the longest, and René Rast as well, before the cars at the rear of the grid make their way into their grid boxes. It's always a tense time. You can almost feel the tension building around the circuit as Timo Glock and Mike Rockenfeller make their way into the grid boxes. We await the green flag from the marshal at the rear. We're on board with Timo Glock and Chris. We're about to go racing.
Thanks, Dave. Right, here we go. Revs rise. The V8 are about to fire into life. Round 5 for the DTM 2018 gets underway. Good start from Paul de Resta off the line. Muller with a decent start as well. So it's going to be tight between the pair of them as they thunder down towards the first corner here. De Resta going defensive already. Look, Lucas Auer looked like he made a decent start, but the road was blocked. So he tries the outside lane now in the orange Mercedes. Jamie Green firing himself way around the outside. It's nip and tap for second place. Lucas Auer is going to try and get down the inside into turn 2. He's absolutely together with Nico Muller here, and he's got the better line through turn 2, and Auer goes into second place. Muller tucks in behind, and a great start as well for Edo Mortara from 5th on the grid. He's just behind them in 4th spot, Dave.
Yes, absolutely. A great move by Lucas Auer. Gary Paffett also looking pretty lively as well. I just for a moment wonder whether that Jamie Green move around the outside was going to work. They were 3 abreast at one point as they continue to make their way around this opening lap here for DTM, race 1 of 2 across this weekend. Being led by Paul de Resta, then it's Nico Muller, then it's Lucas Auer, and then it is Eduardo Mortara up into P4. Joel Eriksson just taking a look at the inside there, but nothing doing. Paul de Resta continuing to lead from Nico Muller, Lucas Auer, Edo Mortara, then of course it is René Rast.
On board with the championship leader, Timo Glock, trying to get something out of this, some points if he possibly can from a lowly grid position. There wasn't too much to be gained on that first couple of corners of the race. The driver closest to him in the championship just coming through shot in that bright blue Mercedes number 2, Gary Paffett. Great to see the former champion back up there fighting. He's the only driver this season so far to win more than one race, 2 victories for him, and looking very strong indeed, Mercedes. So yes, it might be their end of their chapter in DTM, but they're still going for it. And look, some pit stops coming in early already today. 3 cars in, Jamie Green, one of them.
Yeah, and this really worked for Jamie Green at Lausitzring when he dived into the pits on the opening lap. he was able to extract the most out of those tyres because it's a heck of a long way to go the entire race on a set of tyres. But not only Jamie Green taking that gamble, but also Bruno Spengler as well. And there Jamie Green goes in. Let's see the team go to work. Of course, we've got an additional member of the team that are allowed to work on these now. Philip Eng, another one that's also come in car number 25. And of course, as the cars make their way back out onto the circuit, they're going to have a pretty clear track ahead of them because and of course they're going to be on cold tyres, Chris, because tyre warmers for the second year not allowed in DTM. So Jamie Green is going to tiptoe his way around just to get some temperature into those tyres. So very early stops. Let's see as the race unfolds whether that works.
We can see the logic in that, you know, you're not going to get stuck in a queue of cars in a circuit where it's a bit difficult to overtake. So you're going to get some quick laps out on your own now, particularly Jamie Green with nobody in front of him. However, you've got to make those tyres last for a very, very long time, haven't you? So it's a gamble, but you can certainly understand the logic behind it. Paul di Resta leading the way. DRS now available to the drivers, which has an even bigger effect with the fixed rear wing this year. Makes a massive difference. You get 36 per driver, but each time you deploy it, that automatically uses up 3 of those DRS runs per lap, even if you don't use all 3. So they're limited into how much they can use. It does give a big advantage here as you go on board with René Rast, the reigning champion. He's got his maiden victory here, and more drivers coming into the pits now, including Timo Glock, the championship leader. You're right on board with him now, so they come in at the end of the second lap of the race.
So Timo Glock...
Timo, pit stop lights, pit stop lights.
We listen to the
so radio is working fine, just on the grid you couldn't hear me, I was too far away.
Ericsson, isn't it?
Joel Ericsson, yeah, right behind him.
New tyres.
So as Timo Glock comes in, Joel Ericsson comes in as well. Timo's got to try and do something different here. As you said earlier on, there's just a 1 point difference between Timo Glock and also Gary Paffett. So Glock has got to do something different. What he wants to do is... Joel Ericsson is very nearly going to have him in the pit lane. That was close, Chris.
Race between the pit crews there, wasn't it?
Whoa.
Only one wheel gun per side of the car. You have 9 now working on the car. One of them's just a tyre catcher, essentially, that come out of the pits there.
Huge lock-up from Timo on cold tyres, of course. Bruno Spengler goes round.
Yeah, Jamie Green, the first of the pit stoppers, of course,
yes.
isn't he now? About 45 seconds of time that's from pit in to pit out.
Oh,
so
okay.
Just to bear in mind when we start getting the front runners coming in, how much of a gap they might need to try and build up to entail a full pit stop.
So Joel Ericsson will be defenceless here because as we go on board now and watch Philip Eng on the inside of Joel Ericsson, the two rookies into DTM this year together for BMW, and Philip Eng, he probably spent too many turns behind Joel Ericsson, would have preferred to get past a bit quicker, but nonetheless, he is through now. The quickest of the first stoppers, as you said, Jamie Green, who's leading this pack of cars. And now, leading the race is Paul di Resta, but we're on board with Timo Glock as he makes his way through the left-hander. Then heavy braking before the right-hander, taking off some of the speed, then back on the throttle once again. So Timo Glock then 1 point ahead of Gary Paffett in the championship. As in comes Pascal Wehrlein. Chris, I'm really surprised how many drivers are stopping quite early on this circuit in particular, and given the temperatures that we've got.
And while we see the pit stops, to say that while this has been going on, back on track, Muller second, back ahead of Auer, 6 to Resta, Muller, Auer, the top 3, Mutaro fourth, Rast and Hunkadea rounding out the top 6. Gary Paffett 7th, then it's Farfus Duval, who has vowed to improve his qualifying performances this year after his first season in DTM. He struggled in qualifying, had good race pace. He knows he needs good qualifying to be competitive in DTM. And Marco Wittmann in the top 10 as it stands. But of course, you've got half a dozen drivers now who made pit stops. Pascal Wehrlein comes out behind Bruno Spengler, in front of Timo Glock. Third of the pit stoppers, but he runs out wide, and Timo Glock with the better tyres on up to temperature just breezes past him, Dave. Yes,
they're absolutely defenceless, and there was no way that Glock was going to be hampered by Pascal Wehrlein returning. This is the downhill section that I was talking about through turns 2 and 3. It's a fantastic sweeping part of the track, and we did see some overtakes going on there in the opening lap, and that is a favoured place perhaps to try and put a move on. Jamie Green, Bruno Spengler, Timo Glock, then Pascal Wehrlein and Philip Eng once again getting caught up behind another one of those cars that has stopped for tyre replacement, like indeed Philip Eng. And he finds himself stuck behind the Pascal Wehrlein car, and Pascal locks up a little bit, tries to make the Mercedes as wide as possible through the chicane to prevent Philip Eng from coming past. And of course Philip Eng has got Joel Ericsson for company right behind him as well. Philip Eng, another Austrian driver, been hugely successful. And getting to grips with the DTM, as indeed is Joel Eriksson, who perhaps of all the rookies has shone the brightest, Chris.
Yeah, I think he's the youngest driver in the field, isn't he? 19, he's 20 in about a week's time. And of course, Philippe Enger's, although it's a very different car, he's a bit more adaptable, I would say, to coming into DTM, having raced Porsches and Porsche German Carrera Cup and Porsche Super Cup, whereas Joel has come from a single-seater racing background, so it's a big step up. As you can see, there's not much between them. Paul de Resta, last time around, wasn't as quick as Jamie Green, so it's interesting to see that Jamie's pace is a bit quicker than anybody else. Timo Glock has just had the fastest lap of the race, though, as he goes through with a 1:39.1. That's 4/10 quicker than the race leader, so those that came into pits are quick at the moment, Jamie Green and Timo Glock.
But of course, what they've got to do, Chris, they've got to nurse those tyres for 47 minutes plus 1 lap. And that's going to be a big ask, I think, but who knows. So Pascal Wehrlein then, Philippe Eng, and Pascal Wehrlein running just a little bit wide. Pascal Wehrlein and Philippe Eng are able to show his face a little bit, but not close enough to be able to do anything about it. Jamie Green is making haste up the road and escaping, isn't he? So Paul de Resta leading the race. He's got a second's margin over Nico Muller. Then it's Lucas Auer, then Mortara, Rast, Junkadea and Paffett into the top 7. So interesting the pace that, as you say, Timo Glock set the fastest lap there. Confirmation of that, 1:39.109. A fellow BMW brand made ahead of him, and that is Bruno Spengler. So number of drivers, perhaps more drivers than I expected, have stopped early on, given that we still have, as I say, 46.5 minutes plus a lap of this race still to go. Philippe Eng again showing his face to the inside of Pascal Wehrlein, but Pascal Wehrlein, a wily ex-champion, knows where to put the Mercedes-Benz to prevent him coming past, and Timo Glock and Bruno Spengler are stuck together there. Timo, of course, would dearly like to get past Bruno Spengler. Exit in the final turn now. And there is our race leader, Paul de Resta, who's stretching his legs, and it's a couple of tenths he's gained over Nico Muller now.
That's right, of the lead group, he's the quickest, 1:39.39 for him, about 3/10 quicker than both Muller and Auer in second and third. They in turn are pulling away from Mortara, the Italian, in fourth place, about 2/10 slower than them, but he is pulling away from Rast. So those gaps just spreading a little bit there, not much, but by 1 or 2 tenths of a second per lap. Pascal Wehrlein, the 2015 champion, saying in the build-up to this race, he's still getting used to these cars because they're very different to the cars that he drove when he won the championship a few years ago. It's slightly weird to refer to him as an ex-Grand Prix racer because he's only 23 years of age, but a couple of seasons racing in Formula One, and he's still, you know, even if he is still not quite 100% comfortable in these cars, he's showing that he's still very competitive, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely, and you know, he is a driver that you certainly wouldn't have bet against. Probably being able to get to grips with these cars, maybe quicker than some others. So big lock up there for Lucas Auer as he brings the car down because the mandatory pit speed in the pit lane, there is a pit limiter. Augusto Farfus also coming in as well. So Lucas Auer, and you picked it up, he was dropping in terms of time, wasn't he? So he's chosen to come in.
Yeah, still going to have to make it a pretty long second stint on those tyres, but part of the free practice is that they do these longer runs. They're not just trying to get fast lap times, they try and work out what they can and can't do. Although this is the hottest day of the weekend so far, which might make life a bit more difficult for the drivers and the tyres. Farfus in, Auer going back out on track now, and Timo Glock is going to tuck in front of, but of course he's got to get the tyres up to temperature. So Jamie Green coming in, Glock gets through just ahead of Farfus and still right on the tail of Bruno Spengler. So it's worked out pretty well so far for Lucas Auer, but Jamie Green, he's going to be, what, 1 second behind him, something like that. So, you know, at the moment, it's a good call, you'd say, for those that pitted early, but what are the tyres going to be like? What are the handling of those cars going to be like for the last 10 minutes of the race?
Yeah, that's what's going to be really interesting to see. I can't help but feel that Timo Glock will want to be past Spengler here, and at the moment he's not able to do so. Lucas Auer could be very vulnerable to Jamie Green because Lucas Auer is spending this part of the lap trying to get his tyres up to temperature. Jamie Green, of course, one of the early stoppers. His tyres are already up there, aren't they? And of course, Jamie Green will have DRS available to him.
That's right, yeah, as long as he's within a second of the car ahead, crossing the start-finish line, to be able to activate that. Past the commentary box, the top two come through, the gap growing again by another couple of tenths, 1.6 seconds over the last 2 laps. Only slightly quicker on that lap was De Resta, but he was a little bit quicker. 3 seconds back now is Edo Latara in third place. Nico Muller, looking for his first points of the season, is the only driver in the championship so far in 2018 that hasn't scored a championship point. This is representing his best chance. He was on provisional pole at the midway points in the session, but De Resta came through with a perfect lap, it seemed, to nab that pole position, his 8th career pole. Can he get his 9th victory in DTM? Up there he comes at the end of the back straight through turn 4 and into the right at turn 5 now. And Paul looks glued to the track, doesn't he, in that Mercedes? It's not moving around, he's not using too much curb, he's on a pair of rails at the moment.
Absolutely, and of course, I've never spoken to Paul about the Hungaroring in particular, but it was back here at the Hungaroring where he stepped back into a Formula One car at very short notice, wasn't it? And did a remarkable job. So I'm guessing that he's liking this place because he did a fantastic job in that car a couple of seasons ago now.
Yeah, the Williams, wasn't he? He hopped in as a very late standby and did a decent job, as you said, and winner here last year as well from a lowly grid position, wasn't he? Top of my head, 14th on the grid or something like that, wasn't it?
I think you're right.
So there's another British driver, number 2, Gary Paffett, and yes, he's only won the championship once, but blimey, he's come close to winning it 3, 4, 5 other times, hasn't he, over the years? So great, after a couple of disappointing years, great to see him and Mercedes back up there in the fight, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and well, Gary very much, who's been such a strong ambassador for the Mercedes-Benz brand. Of course, on the year that they bow out of DTM, very, very regrettably. So he takes a look at the inside of Daniel Juncadella now. Of course, he would love to leave the championship on a high by taking his second championship. And at the moment, with the way the championship looks, you certainly wouldn't bet against that. Gary is driving as well as he's ever driven, truthfully.
Oh, he goes. Here he goes.
The inside of Daniel Juncadella, which wasn't too difficult an overtake, that's for sure. But he does go through on the number 23 car of Daniel Juncadella. The Spaniard, of course, another returnee to the DTM this year. So Gary Paffett moves himself up now to that P5 position. And crucially for Paffett, it's where he's going to finish relative to Timo Glock, which is going to affect the championship points.
There's Robin Frins, who, after the free practice sessions, looked like an odds-on for a top 3, top 4 grid spot because he was flying in both dry and wet conditions. He was quickest in the wet free practice this morning. As Pascal Wehrlein gets up the inside of Augusto Farfus, Mercedes ahead of BMW. Farfus trying to fight back up the inside. The door closes and he just about fends him off as they come out of turn 3 and onto the back straight. But now, of course, Farfus is menacing in the mirrors, but Pascal's got the job done. Good racing that. They gave each other just about enough room, didn't they?
Yes, yeah, it was just about, wasn't it? It was really close, but as you say, Wehrlein is ahead of Augusto Farfus, and Joel Eriksson lurks not far behind as well, and there is Philipp Eng. So those that have stopped us, in now comes the race leader. Paul de Resta has decided just on 39 minutes to come in to make his pit stop. So the HWA team standing by to service the Paul de Resta car and get some new boots on that. So the team's going to work. We run the clock on this stop. It's critical that this is a quick one for Paul, and it's not gone terribly well at the back, Chris.
No, and every second counts. 9.1 seconds for the whole pit stop because he's still got to get up the pit lane, stick to the speed limit. It's where he's going to come out in relation to those that have made their stops, like Lucas Auer, Jamie Green, Bruno Spengler over the line. Now in front of us goes Lucas Auer. Now you can see him coming into the shot. This is going to be tight. Lucas Auer is going to have tyres up to temperature, and he knows this is his chance. Lucas Auer, Dave, right onto the back of the former race leader.
He's got to do it now, hasn't he? As you correctly said, Lucas Auer's tyres are up to temperature. Paul de Resta is nursing cold tyres. To be fair, Paul is not even going to try and compete because it's utterly futile. He allows Lucas Auer to go through, and so Lucas Auer now finds himself ahead of Paul de Resta. Nico Muller is, of course, leading the race now that Paul de Resta has been in. Lucas Auer, of course, stopped earlier on. So let's see how this pans out. And you can see the deficit when you've got cold tyres. He's able to romp away from him, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. And Paul knew that, as you say, it was pointless trying. It would have just slowed them both down and then brought them back into the path of Jamie Green, who's just there in the background as the third of the pit stoppers. So Lucas out, and you could see as he went into turn one, he was like, this is my chance, and he braked as late as you could possibly imagine into turn one, didn't he?
Here comes what was the race leader for
Muller.
about 3/4 of a lap, Nico Muller. He's in now, so this is going to be really telling to see where he comes out relative to Di Resta and Auer. And bearing in mind, at least a second, maybe a second and a half, was lost by the HWA team. They weren't quick with that stop for Paul Di Resta. Let's run the clock on Nico Muller. It was 9.1, I think. Look, 6.9. That's gained a lot of time, hasn't it, for Nico Muller?
Yeah, and he was only, 1.5 seconds behind or thereabouts before the pit stop sequence happened, so he should be at the head of the group.
Here comes Lucas
stoppers. Yeah, same problem and about the same distance. Whoa. So lock up. Lucas Auer should come through here on the exit to the corner to get his nose back in front. Through he goes. So because Lucas is going to have older tyres, but only by a few laps, not hugely. And Lucas Auer, first of the pit stoppers, Muller in second. Di Resta he is in front of though because of that slow pit stop. Di Resta lost what 3.5 seconds in the pit stop, and he was only a second and a half clear. So it was always going to be the case.
It was always going to work, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's how critical it is that the team and the driver, they have to work in combo, don't they? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I have to say, over the 4 races we've had up until this one, some of the Mercedes stops have been significantly slower for whatever reason. I mean, the teams, as you well know, they practice, they rehearse, don't they? They do it over and over and over again because it has to be seamless.
Yeah, it's a huge. I mean, it's 9 frenetic. Well, hopefully less, but 6-7 frenetic seconds, isn't it? Huge amount of pressure on them. You just fumble. You know, it's like when you're trying to rush anything. That's when you start making mistakes, isn't it? And fumbling around and dropping things. Can't imagine the pressure they're under. But Paul Di Resta, having of course already got his tyres up to temperature, is closing in. So these were the top 2 before the pit stops happened, but the other way around, it was Paul Di Resta ahead of Muller, but he lost time in the pits. Now, though, he is hunting him down. Of course, they're not brand mates, they're not teammates, so he's free to race for the victory effectively here.
Yep, this is the real battle for track position, as Muller will make that car as wide as possible going into turn number 1. You can bet your bottom dollar Paul Di Resta will have DRS available. You can see the window in that wing open, and he should theoretically be able to go all the way around the outside of Nico Muller, but there's a little touch between the two of them. Paul does run a bit wide, but he's got it all completely under control. And Paul Di Resta, with the advantage of DRS and slightly warmer tyres, was able to go through, and now the chase will be on. So there you can see Paul Di Resta already having a couple of car lengths over Nico Muller.
You needed that because you could see Lucas Auer already escaping on the road.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's who he's got to get on terms with now. Here it is again then, to the outside. Nico does try and make the car quite wide. I think, to be fair to him, there was a little touch there, but I think it's probably more as Nico turns in. He hadn't quite got the grip there. There was nothing malicious in it at all. But nonetheless, he didn't make it easy for Paul, and there, why should he?
No, and you might say, okay, DRS has got a huge advantage, and he should be able to get past. But of course, Paul is going into that corner much quicker than normal. He's got to slow the car down. It's not easy to do that. Around the outside as well, there was no margin for error there. It was a really good move that from Paul to get the position. Effectively, second place. Another one in the background coming in for a pit stop. Was it Ankadea maybe in the background that came in? Yes, it was.
So in then, Danny Uncadea then. The Spanish driver back into the DTM for this year. The team once again go to work on the Mercedes-Benz here. We run the clock on them. And 6.9 time we saw for, see again, 8.4. It's
not great, yeah.
It's just not, Audi just seem, and BMW for that matter, just seem to be a little bit quicker. So where is Uncadea going to come out then? Well, under some pressure is Timo Glock now from Pascal Wehrlein. Sorry, we picked this up as now Wehrlein will try and get underneath the all-yellow BMW of Timo Glock, but that will give him the outside for this turn, but he doesn't seem to care about that. They're going side by side. This will give him the inside for the next one. This could be Pascal Wehrlein going through here.
Nice move. That was well thought out, wasn't it? Well thought out.
He set that up, didn't he, from the start finish straight, Chris?
And Timo Glock now frustratingly just behind Hunkadea. He's at least behind the Farfus car, maybe another position further back in the background as he gets his tyres up to temperature. Behind Ericsson possibly as well. So there you can see on the screen the graphic, the drivers with the green box next to them are the ones that have made the pit stop. So 8th place overall, but having made his pit stop, Lucas Auer. But the overall leader, as it stands, is Edo Mortara now. Is 2.2 seconds clear of René Rast. Gary Paffett is 3rd and about to go across the line now. How far back? 6.4 seconds behind the leader and 4 seconds behind 2nd place. So they're now lapping quite a bit slower, actually. 1:39, 8s and 9s. So they are, I mean, Gary Paffett's just on a 1:40.8. That's more or less a second off his best time. So those tyres are starting to suffer now.
Yes. Which leads me to think, Chris, that those that stopped very early on, and we can see Lucas Auer is romping up the road currently. What's he got? He's got 2 seconds ahead of Paul di Resta, hasn't he? Yeah. I just wonder how they're going to suffer come the end of the race.
Lucas Auer is the quickest man on the track at the moment, 1:38.6, 1:39.5 for the leader, just to show you what the difference is between the tyres.
In fact, it's only him and di Resta in the 38s, isn't it?
I think di Resta might have timed it spot on, I reckon, because he wasn't really losing time. He'd still got the best from his tyres. He wasn't at that point where, all right, the tyres are going off now, I'm losing half a second a lap. He came in, the lap before he came in, he did a lap that was only 0.3 of a second away from his very best lap of the whole race so far. So he might just have timed this to perfection, I think. We'll see how it pans out. Still 32 minutes to go.
Yes, there's Edo Mortara. There is René Rast then. And there we can see the car of Gary Paffett, which is running in P3 at the moment, but that's pre-pit stop. Do bear that in mind. And as Chris mentioned, Gary Paffett's lap time's not where that he would like them to be, which would lend us to believe that those tyres are reaching the end of their life. Edo Mortara comes in the number 48 car, probably my most favourite livery of the entire year thus far. Gary Paffett come in as well. No, he stays out. So the team go to work on the Edo Mortara car now then. Times in the 6s. We're not going to see them, but that is a better time from the Mercedes-Benz crew, who the HWA team get a 7.9 for Edo Mortara, who makes his way out onto the track now. He's going to make these tyres last for about half distance of the race, which I think is a fair crack of being able to do that. But whilst he is on cold tyres, he's going to be vulnerable as Mortara goes through the right-hander, which is turn number 1, with Jamie Green lurking not far behind. And Jamie Green, of course, one of those very, very early stoppers, should be on that. You can see Edo there weaving from side to side, aggressively trying to get some temperature into those tyres. He's going to fall prey to Jamie Green, I feel sure.
Yeah, no tyre warmers, of course, these days in DTM. Just looking at the gap, so it's 40 to 45 seconds pit in, stop, by the time you get back out of the pits. And René Rast leads the race. If you add 40 to 45 seconds onto his time, it drops him down to dead last at the moment behind all of the people that have made their pit stops. So, and of course he's not exactly flying at the moment on those tyres, which are looking like they're becoming a bit shot now into the 140s for him. And his best is a 139.5. So staying out too long might be detrimental as well, because they're only going to catch him up at this mid-stage of the race.
Yeah, very fair point. So we continue to watch Edo Mortara around the Hungaroring circuit then, as in now comes René Rast. Brakes the car, slows it right down the mandatory pit lane speed limit, and on board with René Rast then. Of course, flying through the air at the Lausitz ring. Thankfully no lasting injuries at all to René Rast, and the team go to work. And let's just compare these times here, Chris. 6.9.
Yeah, anything under 7's pretty handy.
I think so.
2 seconds margin for warm-up to Spengler.
And he needs every second he can get, really, because I'm not sure he's going to come out that high up the order in terms of those that have made their pit stops.
Edo is still weaving.
Worn the tyres out, yeah. Mortara comes past, Rast tucks in behind, but he's going to lose time here, as he, of course, now has to try and get some temperature in his tyres. And it's like driving on ice on these new slick tyres, even on a warm day like this, on a fairly grippy circuit. They just turn in and nothing happens.
No, you're right. You're right. And you know, each of the drivers that I speak to, you know, it is beyond a lap they need to get them really up to where they need to be.
bearing in mind they've got 500 odd horsepower to try and gingerly get through the tyres that haven't got a great deal of grip for what, a lap and a half or so.
So here's Gary Paffett. So two-time winner so far this season, and of course he is nominally the leader of this race. He's got the final turns to do, and I have a feeling that Gary may dive in this lap. We will see whether he makes his way into the pit lane, and I'll tell you what, Chris.
Yep, in he comes.
Have a little glass ball in here, shouldn't I? Fortune telling. Paffett then on his way in.
So before all the pit stops happened, he was just outside the top 6, wasn't he, in 7th place. So anything above that's going to be a bonus for him. See, already 16, 17 seconds have passed, and he just got to his pit box, 19 seconds. It's a long run down, isn't it?
So the team go to work with Gary's car.
It's not the worst one, but it's not by any stretch the best stop we've had either, is it?
No.
And it sounds nothing, does it? 1.5 seconds, well, so what? But when they're lapping within 1/10 of a second of each other, if you're 1/10 of a second quicker than the guy ahead, it takes you 10 laps just to catch him up. That 1 second.
And that's only catch him up. That's not get past him, isn't it?
Oh! Lock up. He knows he needs to be wide here if he possibly can. All these cars behind him, including Spengler, have already got the tyres up to temperature. And if he lets one through, they're probably all going to come through, aren't they? So you've got to be careful here, Gary. Pascal Wehrlein trying to nip up the inside as well into turn 2, which he does.
Now, look who is right behind him now. The man that's leading him in the championship by 1 point going into this race. Cool.
Finely poised, isn't it?
Yes, love it. So Spengler and Wehrlein have got past him, and now all of a sudden that Mercedes-Benz of Gary Paffett becomes an awful lot wider than it once was, I would suspect. As Timo Glock will try and find his way past the all-blue Mercedes-Benz car. I don't think he's going to find it that easy to do so.
All right so far, though. He had no chance of fending off Spengler or Wehrlein, but he's just tucked in behind Glock. Because Glock was a lot further down the grid before the start of the race, so it shows that so far Timo's strategy of coming in very, very early has worked.
Yes.
But again, how long is going to make these tyres last? There's still another 26 odd minutes plus 1 lap. It's a replay from Pascal Wehrlein's car. Don't give each other much room, do they?
No, but that's great racing to see, isn't it?
Marco Wittmann coming into the pits in front of the commentary box to make his stop, the 2014-2016 champion. Just trying to get in the points, I think, in this race would be what he'd be aiming for into the top 10. Would have been mid-grid at the start of the race.
Tell you what, now Gary has got those tyres up to temperature. He's coming back, isn't he?
He's got a lot quicker to temperature than anybody else, I think, so far, hasn't he?
Got a better exit out of that turn than Pascal did, that's for sure. Is he going to have a go at Wehrlein going into turn number 1? Well, also under pressure is Timo Glock, look.
Yeah, Unkadea with fresher tyres. Now he's got them up to temperature. Getting alongside on the exit to turn 1, but on the outside for turn 2. Gary Paffett straight on the attack here. Looking up the inside of Pascal Wehrlein. He gives him room, through he comes. And meanwhile, it's side by side between Glock and Unkadea. The yellow BMW of Glock's got the inside line now, but not for the next corner. And muscling his way through is the Spaniard, Daniel Unkadea. They're going to be absolutely neck and neck at the top of the hill towards turn 4. Left-hander coming up. Timo Glock will get his nose back in front. The BMW just about there ahead of the Mercedes. And look how much Augusto Farfus has caught them up now in the Shell Oil's Bat car. Because they're fighting each other, he's suddenly onto their tail. 3 of them together here in this battle for what he's only at the moment 14th place.
Oh, and the minute you get into a battle like that, it slows you, doesn't it? You know, because you're fighting with another car, and that's what's really brought Augusto Farfus into this battle. But for now, Timo Glock is leading Daniel Unkadea. Leading the race effectively, or nominally, is Loic Duval with Robin Friends P2 and Mike Rockenfeller P3. The real race is really being led by Lucas Auer, who is showing on screen on the left-hand side of your screen in P4 at the moment. So those still to stop: Loic Duval, Robin Friends, Mike Rockenfeller.
And now it's still quicker than De Resta at the moment. They're 4th and 5th, and the top 2 pit stoppers. It was about 3/10 quicker than the Scotsman last time around. Gary Paffett is lining up a move as he goes nose to tail over the line with Bruno Spengler here, trying to go around the outside. DRS deployed. He's going to get there before they hit the brakes, I think, isn't he? Paffett through. Out of the BMW, slows the car down, and Timo Glock's got close company again, hasn't he here, Dave?
He jolly well has. Daniel Unkadea, this is take 2 of Daniel Unkadea and Timo Glock. So Juncker now very late to the inside, but Timo has got the momentum, hasn't he? Was there a little touch between the two of them then? There might have been, you know, but Timo Glock remains ahead of Daniel Juncker. This is a fantastic three-way fight because Augusto Farfus is trying to buy into it as well. And don't forget, Joel Eriksson is not lurking that far behind either. If he could buy himself into this battle as well, he'd enjoy that. So Daniel Juncker then looking really, really racy here as he tries to battle with the former Formula One star Timo Glock. But this is our race leader, Chris.
It's easily Juncker best weekend so far since his return, isn't it? He's had 1 points finish in 8th place at Hockenheim, but he looked strong in qualifying as well. Look at that, look at the concentration. The eyes, does he blink at all? I mean, the eyes are fixed, aren't they? Not just on what he's doing, but always looking ahead as racing drivers, looking to the next corner, setting the car up. And Lucas Auer looking for his 5th career race victory. He's got a chance, that's for sure. And it's been one of the quickest drivers all day long if you look at qualifying. He didn't start on pole position in the end, but he leads now at Katz. There's Paul de Resta behind. The gap between the pair of them is 1.5 seconds, which is more or less the amount of time, well, it's more or less the amount of time that there was between them before the pit stops, but the other way around. So 3 seconds lost in those pits as Mortara making a move now. And René Rast goes defensive on the way into the left-hander at turn 2. But Edo hasn't given up just yet. He positions the car, ready for the right-hander to come. Edo goes through, out wide with no choice, really, goes René Rast, but he keeps his foot buried on the throttle and stays, you know, OK, left-hander coming up, I'll get you back then, he says. Fantastic.
This is brilliant.
2 real racers there, go tongue to tongue, weren't they?
So Edo then, despite his best efforts, and this isn't over either, it's a sort of a photocopy, really, of what we've been seeing, isn't it? Timo Glock and Daniel Juncker, and now Augusto Farfus and Joel Eriksson. It really is a true 4-way fight now going on here. The train of cars being led by Timo Glock here, defending hard against Daniel Juncker and the Mercedes-Benz. Then he's got 2 of his BMW brand mates behind him. Well, make that 3 now. And this was the René Rast-Edo Mortara battle. Now, René had no choice but to run very, very wide there. And this was Juncker then. We didn't quite see this, did we? Just a little love tap on the back of the Timo Glock car. And one of the big advantages, Chris, for me, with the reduction in aero, as Timo had to use some opposite lock to control that, is the fact that in the past, even an innocuous little touch like that could have broken an aero flip. The car might have been out of the race.
That's right. And it hasn't detracted in any way from the racing, has it? The speed of the cars. I mean, as the spectator, you still see very quick DTM cars going around. And, you know, who cares about all these, from a, you know, layman's point of view, who cares about all these aerodynamic gauges? If the racing's fast enough and close enough, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Here comes Juncker, take 3. So,
this is the one,
he's done it. Oh, has he? He runs a bit wide. Timo Glock makes the beamer as wide as possible. They are side by side. He hadn't quite got it done where I thought he would, but he has now. And you can almost feel Daniel Juncker going like that in the rearview mirror because it's taken him 3, if not 4 laps, hasn't it, to get past Timo Glock. But brilliant racing between the 2 of them.
Yeah, really. OK, you're going to pass me. You're going to have to give it 1,000% here, said Timo Glock, because I'm not making this easy for you at all.
I know you've been watching the timing screen here. For me, it looks like de Resta is a lot closer to Lucas Auer now.
Let's have a look. They're the only 2 drivers that were in the 138s last time around. Auer, last time, yeah, he had a slowish lap. 140.0, 139.6 for de Resta. That's the first time that the gap has come down. But it looked like an off lap there, suddenly. A lot slower on that lap for Lucas Auer as we get replays of the start here. Great start by de Resta. But the best start was probably Lucas Auer, wasn't it? Charging around the outside. Jeremy Green had a go as well, didn't he?
I'd have loved it to work.
Nearly.
It didn't.
Yeah, nearly. Gary Paffett got a bit out of shape out of turn 1 as well. And it was all very tight, but pretty fair actually out there, wasn't it? That first couple of turns and out onto the back straight. This is Joel Eriksson, you can see up ahead, going around the outside, or trying to go around the outside of Pascal Wehrlein in the silver Mercedes, and failing to do so. And popping back up into the shot on the onboard camera.
And now, de Resta is ahead of Auer.
Yes, suddenly. And so Lucas Auer, yeah, was lapping in the high 138s, then he suddenly did a 140. and a 139.7 for Di Resta. So they switch around. Di Resta in the Mercedes and his brand mate Lucas Auer switch around. Di Resta back at the head of the field, right then left through the chicane he goes. What's the gap back to effectively what's going to be third place, and Nico Muller? They're not the top three at the moment because others have yet to make their pit stops. The top three on the track are Duval, Frins and Rockenfeller. Frins not quite getting it together in qualifying this morning despite his excellent form. Second fastest in dry-free practice and fastest in wet-free practice in the build-up to that. Here's the replay of how it happened then, and yeah, life was made fairly simple and straightforward for Paul Di Resta there to get through. So what's the speed going to be like now they get back up to full attack mode as they come through turn 14? The right-hander start a new lap. Duval, Frins and Rocky have all stayed out. Pace is pretty good still, you have to say. 139.5 for Duval, 139.4 for Frins, and a 139.7 for Rocky. So yeah, the tyres are getting pretty old now, but their pace is not too bad. They're only within a second of their very best lap times of the race so far. There is Gary Paffett then, currently in 9th place, but it could become 6th once the top three make their pit stops. The front of the car hopping and bouncing around as he hits the brakes and completes the sector time. And Gary, last time around, did a 139.2. It's half a second off his very best lap of the race so far. So back into the 139s for Rast and Motara, have been battling away. They are two of the quicker drivers out there as it stands. Duval doing a good lap time for the last couple of laps. Get some super slow-mos now. Look at that, there's a sparks fly off the front left corner of Gary Paffett's Mercedes AMG, the 2005 champion, having a super strong start to the season. And of course he is ahead at the moment of Timo Glock, and Glock is out of the points as it stands, so it could well be that Gary is about to move into the championship lead. Right on cue, there is the championship points predictor. Paffett will move by 1 point into the championship lead ahead of Glock, 73 points to 72 as it stands, with Lucas Auer leading the next group then, 44 points. Di Resta, if he wins the race, moves up to 4th place and 43, and they both move ahead of Mortara and Fairline, who dropped to 5th and 6th positions. And Loic Duval has now come into the pit, so the Frenchman in at the start of his 2nd season in the DTM. The former Le Mans winner comes in.
All the laps to the end of the race.
He made his name in single-seaters at first, then GT racing, Supreme 12-hour winner, Super GT champion, and then a World Endurance champion and Le Mans winner back in 2013 with Audi. It was a decent stop. Where is he going to come back out, and how quick is he going to be for the last 15 minutes or so of the race? That's Farfus who comes out behind, so he's going to have to really attack to get some points out of this, I think, for the closing stages. And look at that, on cold tyres, he runs way out wide. He let rip with the 500+ brake horsepower. And lesson learned, he now starts to try and get some temperature into the tyres. And that was a leery moment as he came out of turn 1 very wide. Look how much time he's lost already to the car ahead on the tyres that are already warmed up. So Loic Duval makes his way through. It means Robin Frins is now the race leader, and Mike Rockenfeller is the only other driver yet to pit. There he is at the moment in 2nd place. The gap between the two of them is about 4 seconds. Straight on, turn the wheel, but no grip on the tyres, and then a bouncy run on the escape route there, on the exit to turn 1, downhill into turn 2, and he'd already lost a ton of time to the Audi ahead of Jamie Green. So all but 2 of the drivers have pitted now. Robin Frins leads the way, and he now comes into the pits on cue, leaves it to the last millisecond to hit the brakes.
Pace was good on stint 1. Green, you are fighting with him. He stopped on lap 1. You will fight Glock as well. You are fighting for P10. Remember brake balance. Remember the white line on the exit and the...
So there, the team radio. Robin Frins being told by his engineer, pace was good. You are fighting for 10th position.
Go, go, go. Safe on the outlap and push.
There's a contradiction in terms. The engineer says, be safe on the outlap, but push. Okay, right. So Robin Frins, cautious aggression, I think, is what is required here. He's going to lose out here on the run into turn 1, firing around the outside of him comes Duval, but It's going to be close between them. They could still get some points here. So that means that the only driver yet to pit, and now at the moment leading the race, is Mike Rockenfeller. His last lap was a 1:40.7, and he's by no means the slowest driver out there. So Mike, as he's tended to do over the last couple of seasons, is a bit of a master, Dave, of looking after his tyres and still being very smooth and consistent with them.
I think that's the trick with Mike, isn't it? You're absolutely right. He's smooth, he nails every turn correctly, and if anyone can get the best out of them, he is always the man that can do that. And I think you're right. I think it's super smoothness that is the key.
Yeah, and of course he's pretty switched on, isn't he, Mike? And he's a very experienced racer. Even though he's still quite a young racing driver relatively, he's got all sorts of experience, and he brings a lot to the table. You see why he's a former champion. There's another one, Bruno Spengler, who's definitely looking like he could be in the points in this race. He's 11th at the moment. But with Mike Rockenfeller, the race leader, of course, yet to pit. 25 laps on the tyres, 2.5 seconds ahead of Paul di Resta, who's going to pick up the lead of the race once Mike comes in. It's where Mike is going to filter back in at the end of the race, really. Will he be in the points? If he can, that will be a real achievement, given that he started dead last on the grid. So Lucas Auer falling away now from the race leader, or the potential race leader, Paul di Resta generally, by about 1 to 2 tenths of a second per lap. Quicker than the pair of them is Nico Muller. He's just done a 1:39.9, so he was 4 tenths quicker than Paul di Resta last time round. And maybe that's the reason, Dave, that Paul was keen to get past Lucas, because he knew that Muller's Audi is pretty quick here in these closing stages.
He needed to build that margin, didn't he? He needed to get as far up the road as he possibly could. So Mike Rockenfeller, leader of the race. P2 is Paul di Resta, but actually Paul di Resta will become P1 when Mike Rockenfeller does eventually decide to go in and have those tyres changed. But as you've quite rightly said, the one to perhaps keep an eye on here is Nico Muller. Lucas Auer has dropped significantly behind Paul di Resta now, and Paul di Resta then knows that the fight really, what have we got, 11 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap. It'll be interesting to see how the margin between the Paul di Resta car and the Nico Muller car looks over the next couple of laps or so. So Mike Rockenfeller then is the leader of the race. Is it going to be this lap that he indicates right and pulls into the pit lane? And sure enough, no, he sold me a dummy then, didn't he?
Just using all of the track and then some. The fastest man on the track last time around was René Rast, who of course has got very fresh tyres. Do not rule him out of a podium finish here, because René is only 8 tenths of a second behind Muller, and they're all catching di Resta and Auer. So let's see what the lap times are like this time. Di Resta 1:40.1, Auer 1:40.3, Muller 1:40.0, Rast 1:39.7, catching them up again. He's flying at the moment, and now he's only half a second behind Muller. So the 33 René Rast car, the reigning champion, on a charge. You can see him just coming down in the background.
That's going to be a really interesting inter-brand battle between the two of them. Of course, both in the dramas at the Lausitzring, the last DTM race weekend. Nico Muller it was that didn't get away, and then found himself wearing half of Jamie Green's car right on the start line. A dramatic moment that was, that's for sure.
Jamie's got very old tyres on that car. He came in at the end of lap 1. Behind him, Loic Duval in the black Audi, and just behind him, Robin Frins in the bright blue and green Audi. They are on relatively new tyres, well, very new tyres. So Jamie is going to be having his mirrors full, you suspect, for the next 10 minutes or so.
So Jamie Green then, as Chris said, as Ernst then on the pit wall looks on, is going to be vulnerable for sure, isn't he, to both Loic Duval and Robin Frins. Jamie going with that strategy of pitting very early on to put those tyres on, but then, of course, the degradation of those tyres for jolly near the entire race means that they are nothing like as grippy as the Audis that are right behind him and chasing him down now. Mike Rockenfeller does at last come in. So the leader of the race becomes Paul di Resta. Here comes Mike Rockenfeller then. Nursed and nursed and nursed that car.
Okay, Mike, we are fighting for P10 with Juncadella, Spengler, Berline and Glock. You have to fight for position at the end. Pit exit.
Interesting to hear the radio comms, isn't it?
Yeah, so I reckon he's going to come out somewhere near Berline and Glock, with 13th and 14th on track at the moment, 12th and 13th. It's a very good stop though, isn't it? 6.2 seconds.
So not only has he done a good job with the tyres, but the team have done a good job in getting him out in the quickest time possible, as Loic Duval does get past Jamie Green. Is Robin Frins going to be able to do it on this lap as well? Jamie is really vulnerable here. Both Loic and Robin are on newer tyres than Jamie Green. Jamie Green is really having to nurse those now as we reach the closing stages of this race. We're into probably the final 10 minutes or so. But Loic Duval has got past and he's now escaping up the road. You can see the advantage that the grip is giving to Loic Duval, and that will also be the case for Robin Frins as well. But Robin has got to find a way past, and at the moment hasn't been able to do that. So the race lead now is with Paul di Resta, then it's Lucas Auer, but it's going to be very interesting, I think, Chris, as you picked up on. It's going to be P3 and P4. It's going to be the final podium place potentially between Rast and Muller, although Muller is still very much focused on getting into Lucas Auer as well. So as we continue to watch this, as Jamie Green still defends, just feel that he is going to be completely defenceless. You can see Robin Frins doing everything he can to try and get past the Jamie Green car, but hasn't been able to do so far.
It's frustrating for Robin because you can see how quickly Loic Duval is pulling away. Here's an opportunity there around the outside. Through he comes before they get to turn 14, the final turn. And so I had to do it really, didn't he? Because he was losing a huge amount of ground there. And Jamie had to let him go in the end. So Robin Frins comes through. Watch for a charging Mike Rockenfeller coming up as well. He's going to have very fresh tyres, isn't he?
Yes.
For the last 5 minutes of the race. But he's not going to have many laps to try and use them, really. That's the problem. Still has an outside chance of a point though, so Paul di Resta leads Lucas Auer by 1.5 seconds. Nico Muller is going at the moment on a very similar lap time. They've all lapped within half a tenth of a second of each other. And on that lap, actually, René Rast was a bit slower, 1 minute 40.3. But let me read the lap times out for the top 6 or 7 drivers. 1:40.0 for di Resta, 1:40.0 for Auer, 1:40.0 for Muller, 1:40.3 for Rast, 1:40.0 for Mortara, 1:40.0 for Paffett. It's close.
On board with René Rast then as he chases down that Nico Muller car. There is Lucas Auer, currently P2. You can see the 2 Audis lurking just behind the Lucas Auer all-orange Mercedes-Benz. There is Nico Muller, and there is René Rast, of course, the current DTM champion. Won it in his rookie year, although he had been in a DTM race before then. It was his first real rookie season, and won the championship, and now he's chasing down Nico Muller, who is currently in that P3 position. We've got 6 minutes and a few seconds plus 1 lap remaining. So René Rast chases down Nico Muller. Both of them have got plenty of DRS left, more than enough for the rest of the race, should they choose to use it. But Muller, of course, is not going to be in a position where he can use DRS because he's not close enough to Lucas Auer, as Jens Marquardt from BMW looks on.
Quickest span by 1 million miles last time around was Loic Duval. Oh, an absolute stag, yeah, flying. And he's got good tyres on. He's had a couple of 5th place finishes in his first season and a bit of DTM. He might be about to match that, maybe even better. He's 7th at the moment. He's flying after Gary Paffett and everybody in front of him.
Just saw Jens Marquardt looking pretty miserable, if I'm honest. And here's the reason why. His best driver is down there in P12, isn't he? Bruno Spengler.
Yeah, you're right.
Who actually is looking perhaps a little vulnerable to Pascal Wehrlein here. So the battle between Bruno Spengler and Pascal Wehrlein. Then it is Timo Glock. So for the Mercedes and Audi brands, been a very good race. Less so for BMW. P12, then it's 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. Yeah,
Farfus had the best grid of the BMWs, did he? In 8th place, but it really hasn't worked out for him in this one. Then in 15th place, though. And yeah, very difficult race for them. It didn't really look like it was going to be that bad, did it?
No.
After qualifying, I mean, yeah, there were only a couple of them in the top 10, but the gaps were pretty small from, you know, sort of 4th, 5th down to the back of the field, really. Some super slow replays of the top 2. Di Resta, Auer pushing hard, Muller in 3rd, pushing really, really hard. René Rast, who does a wheelie in the Audi. Fantastic. Can you go on board with him now?
He's really on it now, isn't he? And Rast, it's a question of when, not if, I think, that he's going to be able to find his way past Nico Muller. This is a fight for P3 and P4. So René Rast then great to see those onboard shots because all the drivers use this left foot braking technique, don't they? And they keep their foot on the throttle. I mean, René, as he went across those curbs, had got his foot buried, hadn't he? Brilliant to watch some of those super slow-mo shots of the cars taking off. And sure enough, there is De Resta and Auer.
Gap's come down a little bit.
I was going to say, for my money, Lucas is looking a bit more lively now.
Yeah, 1.2 seconds the gap between them. It was 1.5. And I suppose they're both pushing on because they know that he's pretty quick. Audi's not too far away in the background. Coming after them, Audi's third, fourth, and fifth at the moment. Gary Paffett in the Mercedes, rounding out the top 6 as it stands, but kind of out on his own at the moment, really. He's too far back from 5th to attack. Although he's got Luc Duval charging, he's got a bit of a breathing space on him as well. So Gary looking good at the moment for that 6th place finish.
Yes, and crucially it will be banking points, won't it? Whereas at the moment, Timo Glock is out of the points, who, incidentally, the red indicator on the left-hand side of your screen with a 0 for Timo Glock means he's out of DRS usage as well. Only 2 drivers who have used all their DRSs, Timo Glock and Marco Wittmann. So here comes Nico Muller and René Rast then. René Rast really closing as he brakes for turn number 1, but not getting close as I thought he would to Nico Muller here. So Rast then, as they run downhill through turn 2. Right-hander is turn number 3 here at the Hungaroring. And this is the fight you're watching for the final podium place at the moment, as Paul de Resta and Lucas Auer are escaping up the road. The more these two fight, the more it plays into those Mercedes-Benz hands, with only 2 minutes plus 1 lap left, which will equate to probably 3 laps. It's going to be P1 and P2, barring disaster, for Paul de Resta and Lucas Auer. But who's it going to be on the final step of the podium between these two at the moment? I have to say, Nico Muller's doing a very good job of managing this, Chris.
Yeah, pretty solid race weekend here. A couple of point scoring finishes last year, so just go well around here. Certainly not driving like the driver who's plumb last in the championship at the moment, with no points to his name. He's gone really well so far today. For the final point, for 10th place, it's Daniel Hungadea at the moment, but he's got the flying Mike Rockenfeller catching him by 0.3 of a second per lap, so the gap has come down from 2 to just 1 second.
And of course his tyres are going to be like super glue, aren't they, in comparison to anybody else out there, because he was the very last to stop. So crossing the timing line now, breaking the beam, it's Paul de Resta, then it is Lucas Auer, 1.1 seconds between them, then it's Nico Muller, and there are 7/10 between Nico Muller and René Rast for P3 and P4, then it's Edo Mortara P5, and again Rast closes in, going into turn number 1, but doesn't close in anything like enough to have a go at Nico Muller. They will have this lap and 1 more. This is Mike Rockenfeller then, who points a finish. The only thing that's preventing that at the moment is the Mercedes-Benz of Daniel Hungadea ahead of him, and look how close they are.
Yeah, Mike's absolutely not interested in 11th place, couldn't care less. He needs some points here to try and close up. Having started last on the grid, he's 10th in the championship. He's had that 1 podium finish so far this year in race 2. He looks at the inside into turn 2, but Hungadea just about closes the door in time. It's coming though, isn't it? And if he can get past Daniel Hungadea, he can quickly catch up to the next car ahead, which is the orange Audi of Jamie Green. Look, so there are some points to be had here in the closing laps for Mike Rockenfeller, if he can find a way quickly past Daniel Hungadea. That's easier said than done.
You're absolutely right. It is easier said than done. He is quicker. That was advantaged a little bit as Hungadea ran very wide there, but can Mike Rockenfeller take advantage going into the chicane, try and set something up? He is running out of time now. So Rocky then, who was the last of the drivers to stop, P11 means 0 points. P10 means 1 point, and that's what Mike Rockenfeller wants to get. So this will be the final lap from Paul de Resta and Lucas Auer then. Absolute confirmation of that on screen. It is the last lap. It's now or never for René Rast on Nico Muller. It's now or never for Lucas Auer and Paul de Resta, you know. He's getting closer, Chris.
Absolutely, 0.7 of a second, that's all it was, the deficit, as he crossed the start-finish line.
He's got DRS open. Paul de Resta, of course, will not have DRS available to him.
And look at René Rast as well, right here on board with him now, trying to get that final podium position. And he had a pretty long first stint, but it's working really well for him now. Closing in on Nico Muller. 2 Mercedes fight for the lead. 2 Audis fight for the final place on the podium. Mutara in 5th place, Paffett 6th, Frin 7th, Duval 8th, Green 9th. Kadea at the moment 10th, but with Rocky all over the back of him as we saw last.
So Rast then continues to follow Muller. You know what? I think Nico is going to see him off. I think Paul di Resta is going to see off Lucas Auer. I don't really think that was a true charge. I'm not sure Lucas has made up enough for the gap between the two of them, and Paul di Resta inevitably is going to have superior tyres because Lucas Auer stopped much earlier than he did. And Paul di Resta then for Mercedes-Benz. His best finish thus far has been a P4 in this season. He has, just after this turn, one more turn to do, and he will head for the checkered flag.
Out through turn 14, Lucas Auer proving a point over the last couple of laps of the race. They're both led, but leading at the end, taking his first win of 2018 is Paul di Resta. He takes victory in the Mercedes from Lucas Auer by just half a second. Nico Muller, his first point straight onto the podium in 3rd place this season, and René Rast with a charging drive to 4th position. Edo Mutara crosses the line 5th. Gary Paffett's just gone through in 6th. Good. Robin Frin 7th.
And yeah, I think it was a cool day at the end of the day. Thank you. Pit stop also great.
That was a cool day, he says. Well, it was all right, wasn't it?
The car was amazing.
Car was amazing, says Paul di Resta. Well, it was. Both of them well set up, equally as quick as one another. Lucas Auer, not a winner so far this season, but another 2nd place finish for him. Right, Frins has crossed the line 7th, then Duval, then Green, then it was Kadea. He held off Mike Rockenfeller by 0.4 of a second to take the final point here, and his 2nd points finish of the season. So Paul di Resta with his 9th victory. Well, not quite the champagne, but the bottles of water are already flowing down at the team.
That's great to see, isn't it? And the drivers make much of this, don't they? You know, they win and lose as a driver and a team all together, don't they? So Paul di Resta then takes the win. And Thomas Voigt there from Audi.
So the race winner from Hungaroring Race 1 is listening to Run Racing. Paul, congratulations. How are you feeling?
So Paul di Resta live from the car with his thoughts, sounding typically calm and collected. Paul just brought it home 1-2, and crucially he said, and that puts us back in the championship fight already. See, 3rd weekend of the season, thinking about the championship. And Dave, we're not the wiser as to who's going to win this one, because it is, I mean, DTM's always wide open, but it seems to be even more the case this year.
I think so, and it's ironic, isn't it, the year that Mercedes-Benz will actually be leaving the DTM. You know, they're really in the fight, and you're absolutely right. The reduction of this aero has brought the cars all much closer together, as we see in replay here. One poor engineer really getting it, and very nice little dance there from some of our marshals, who of course do a wonderful job all around the world in making sure that we can enjoy the sport that is motor racing, as we see Paul di Resta, Lucas Auer and Nico Muller all in Parc Fermé.
Do really embrace DTM here at the Hungaroring, yes, don't they? The crowd, the marshals, the officials. There's a really nice sort of vibe about the place, and you know, back behind the commentary box, I mean, there's a full-on techno party going on, isn't there, with the music and loads of food stalls, live music, stages, music pumping away. It's an event, atmosphere. Yeah.
It really is an event.
Paul was going to be, you know, we saw him having bottles of water tipped down his back by himself on the grid just to try and stay cool. And Imagine how much fluid they potentially lose in the race. They have to be careful of that because, of course, they've got to all meet the minimum weight limit, and they want to be as close to that as possible because every thousandth of a second counts. So onto the scales they go. Dealing with the official business before really celebrating. A few clouds in the sky now to give us a break, but under the sunshine, Paul di Resta the race winner, Dave.
Yes, confirmation of the result. Paul di Resta taking the win from Lucas Auer. Nico Muller, P2, P3. Then it was René, Rast, Mortara, Gary Paffett. Good points all in P6. Then it was Robin Frins, Loic Duval, Jamie Green, and Daniel Junkadea before we saw Mike Rockenfeller just out of the points. Then it was Spengler, Wehrlein, Glock, Farfus, Wittmann, Eriksson, and Philipp Eng rounding out the result for race 1 of 2 across this weekend. Of course, in DTM now, both races identical in terms of duration, 55 minutes plus 1 lap. But, as we've said, and I'm tired of repeating, and probably you're tired of hearing it, but Gary Paffett now has a 7-point advantage over Timo Glock. But look at Paul di Resta all of a sudden into P3 in the championship. We look at the result from today, Chris. Neither you nor I would be prepared to go away and bet a euro on the result being the same tomorrow.
No. In fact, the only surprise this year is that somebody already has won more than one race because with Gary Paffett having achieved that, because almost every time you think it's probably going to be somebody else different today, somebody else different on the podium, which shows that, I mean, they know, and drivers have said it, you can't win. You can't even try and win every race in DTM. It's too close. Try and win a few over the season. Win 2 or 3. It's usually enough, isn't it? Three wins is usually enough. But you've got to be consistent. You don't want to drop points. You don't want to have DNFs. And you know, sometimes you just got to pick up the 6th and 7th place finishes. They're the ones that add up at the end of the season to make the difference.
So the 3 drivers we're going to see on the podium down there then, Lucas Auer, Paul di Resta and Nico Muller all posed for the photographs. And you can see the podium just above the drivers there. And that's where the guys will be heading in just a moment.
I think Nico Muller can be well pleased with his day's work, can't he?
I think you're right.
Top Audi driver on the podium, and difficult start to the year, but when he's on it, Nico, and he has a day like this, he's up there with the best of them, isn't he?
It's always been one of those drivers who's always there or thereabouts, but never seems to have, can I explain it like kind of breaking out of the bubble somehow. We know the talent is there, we know the ability is there, but just sometimes it doesn't, you know, there isn't the shine that we expect, maybe.
Difficult to shine in this field, though, isn't it? I mean, you look at the grid and you go, okay, the guy 18th on the grid is Mike Rockenfeller, so incredible stuff. Right, it's time for us to hear from some of our drivers now, and we can hear from Lucas Auer in 2nd place.
I've got a very happy man here with me, Lucas Auer. You haven't had a success yet here at the Hungaroring. Now 2nd place, you've got to be very happy with that.
Yeah, it was a cool race, good start. I overtook Nico at the beginning. Then I had a little lock-up, he overtook me again. And then we had a great pit stop, good strategy. And at the end of the day, good pace. And congrats to Paul. It was good.
But you were fighting really hard. You were breathing down his neck, only half of a second behind behind Paul.
Yeah, well, it was tight. No room for mistake for him.
Congratulations, fantastic job you did there. And Paul is right here, so let me just quickly talk to Paul. Congratulations, started in pole and ended in victory, so perfect race for you.
Yeah, perfect. You can't ask for more to qualify in pole, especially here, and then to transfer it into obviously a race win. It was close, obviously. Pit stop wasn't the best, but the boys have given me a great car to drive. So in the end, the balance, the battle with Nico was obviously nice. It came off in the end, but tomorrow's another day, and we need to try and maximise what we can.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. Off you go to the podium, and back to you.
Looks pleased with his day's work, doesn't he?
Yeah, but very pragmatic, isn't it, from Paul di Resta? Like, the job's only half done. It's only halfway through the weekend. Always thinking ahead. And a wry smile on Lucas's face there, wasn't it? Yeah, I pushed him at the end. He couldn't make a mistake.
Lukey is just, he is a really enigmatic character, isn't he? And Uli Fritz is busy texting there.
Yeah, get the results back to base. We've had a good day. First and second.
Dieter Gas congratulates him from Audi. That's nice to see. So great camaraderie. And everyone assembled there below the podium as the drivers will be heading up there shortly. So Dieter Gas and Uli Fritz then from Audi and Mercedes-Benz respectively having their conversation. And there is Mr. Zanardi, we're going to see, of course, in Misano. Night racing for DTM. Fantastic. It's going to be a spectacle, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the crowd's going to go wild when Alice is there, and the Alessandro being a big hero, of course.
Oh,
he's the ex-double kart champion, IndyCar champion, and ex-Formula One racer. As I said earlier, 3-time gold medalist. So fantastic for him. Experienced touring car racer, of course. Spent a number of years in World Touring Cars. He was a race winner in that category, wasn't he? So he'll know the circuit, and great to see him here. There he is to present the trophies, or some of the trophies here up on the podium. Also got Jens Keller, German football coach and ex-defender, to present some trophies as well. Paul di Resta it is, the winning driver. First time this season. Lucas Auer with his second visit to the podium, with a big cheer for him. And joy as well for the winning team, and of course for our third place driver. Excellent result for Nico Muller. So the crowd gathered, the teams assembled at the foot of the podium, and in a moment we'll have the British national anthem for Paul di Resta, up into third place in the championship standings after that race victory.
Well, the shortened
it's the radio edit.
Radio edit of the national anthem. Goodness me. Sorry, Paul, you weren't going to get to sing a verse, mate. So the baseball caps go back on then. Paul di Resta P1, Lucas Auer P2, and Nico Muller P3.
Keeping cool. Mr. Cool, isn't he, Paul di Resta?
Yeah.
Never shows, never wears his heart on his sleeve too much, does he?
Look at those trophies, Chris.
Fantastic, yeah.
So the BMW Works driver and brand ambassador, Alex Zanardi, makes the trophy presentation to Paul di Resta. I'm loving it. The trophies we've seen this year for DTM,
cool,
every track we've been to, have been stunning. That's a nice one. Jens Keller up next then, in terms of presentations.
Not quite familiar with the protocol of the podium. He's presenting the winning constructor trophy to Mercedes. And then Guy Fasola from the National Automobile Sports Federation of Hungary will present the second place trophy to a pretty happy Lucas Auer. It's the nearly day for Lucas today. It was nearly pole. It was nearly the race win, wasn't it? But if he can keep it up tomorrow,
it'll give him the impetus for tomorrow, won't
absolutely. It? Yeah, it gives him that bit more of motivation, doesn't it? If he even needed it. Christian Berkey, the Olympic gold medalist, the gymnast, took a gold medal in the 2012 Olympics in London. Presents the third place trophy. I'll pose for a few photos up onto the top step, and then with no more activity for them, at least on the track today, and qualifying and another race to come tomorrow, they'll probably go for it with the champagne, I reckon, Dave.
Yes. And
ice creams?
Ice creams all around. Thank you so much. Well, as you say, with no more race activity for them, they are properly going for it.
Lucas is a demon with these, isn't he? Great stuff. Wow. Great day for Mercedes. Great day for Paul di Resta. And one win, Dave, and you rocket up that championship table. It's so close this year.
Makes all the difference, doesn't it? And, we are set for a fantastic season, that's for sure. And, of course, another race to come tomorrow, Mr. Hartley.
Indeed so, yeah. Another qualifying session to come before that as well. It's going to be a frenetic 20 minutes. And then we'll have the second race of the weekend, round 6 of the championship. And you know what? If anything to go by, so far the 2018 season has been, then it's going to be another different set of front runners, isn't it? Paul di Resta and Lucas Auer would like to think, though, that they continue this good form. We shall see how it all pans out. Another day coming up tomorrow here at the Hungaroring. Getting a little bit overcast now, but it does promise to be a dry and another very hot day for us tomorrow. So from Dave Richardson and me, Chris Hartley, thanks very much for listening.
So it certainly was a very, very hot race here today at the Hungaroring, and a double win for Mercedes, a third place for Audi. Let's see what tomorrow brings. We're very excited to be back tomorrow. Till then, here are the highlights. Enjoy. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.